Dr. John Demartini is a human behavioral specialist and founder of the Demartini Institute, a private research and education institute dedicated to activating leadership and human potential. He's an international author and business consultant, working with CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, celebrities, and sports personalities. Globally, he's worked with individuals and groups across all markets.
My first question, John, is about how lots of people tend to subordinate themselves to authorities. For example, family, religion, countries. How can we stop subordinate ourselves? Do you understand my question?
Yes. If you're working in a company or in some sort of organization, you're being hired to do and to act in a responsible manner according to what is requested if you want to earn income, to have a fair exchange. So if you're doing something that you're not inspired to do, you're going to feel disengaged. But it's not because of the action, it's because of the perception of the action. That particular action that's being requested of you could be perceived in such a way that it could fully engage you. You could ask, how specifically is doing this particular responsibility or duty? How specifically is it going to help me fulfill what's most meaningful to me? How's it going to help me fulfill what my dream is, my goal, my objectives? If you answer that question, the more you answer the question, the more you will feel that you're not doing it out of duty or out of obligation. You're doing it because you would love to do it because it's helping you get what you want. So in that case, you're not doing it out of subordination. You're doing it as a participant, fully engaged, because you're getting what you dream about, helping other people get what they want to get in life. So subordination is not because people are forcing you to do something. Subordination is because you've chosen to not see how you're going to win out of doing it. So if you're in a job that you're uninspired by, you feel disengaged by, and you feel you have to go to work and you have to do this and have to do this, which is a sign of not seeing how it's helping you, you're going to feel that you're forced to do something out of subordination. So wisdom is asking, how specifically is what I'm doing helping me fulfill what I dream about? And you'll transform perceptually an obligation into an inspiration. Now, so subordination has many different formats. Doing what it is that inspires you is not subordinating. But you may be confronted by responsibilities along your journey that you feel you have to do. And so instead of having to do it and being subordinate and then injecting the values of others into your life and then losing yourself in the process, just keep asking how specifically what I'm now going to do can help me fulfill what I'm dreaming about. And now you're doing the same activity without subordination. The more engaged you are, the less they tell you what to do. And the more you get to tell yourself what to do because you become empowered in that position. And you get usually promotions and opportunities because you become an expert if you're engaged. You actually look forward to learning about it and mastering it. So it's never what's being asked of you, it's how you perceive it. And wise people learn how to take whatever is asked and perceive it in a way where they're winning out of it. Now, when somebody's hiring somebody in an organization, it is wise for them to make sure that the job responsibilities or duties are somewhat aligned to the values of the person doing it. That's a smart hiring process. If not, you can always link it and engage them through the questions I just mentioned. But if not, it's wiser to hire people that are somewhat inspired to do what you're going to delegate. That way you have more engagement, less forcing and micromanaging, less bureaucracy, trying to micromanage, and more efficiency. And people are engaged, and they're not doing it because they're subordinating and having to do it. They're doing it because they want to participate and help you get your dreams because it's helping them get their dreams. This is wisdom. And that's a wise manager and leader will know that and make sure that that is maximized to the best of their ability. But if a person is not doing what they love to do and not doing what's inspiring to them and not doing something that's meaningful to them and not doing something that is high in their values, they will eventually break down. It's been shown in business that when people are doing something that are actions that are not engaging, if they work all day, they create cardiovascular problems. because the stress levels and distress levels show up. But when they're fully engaged, they can work 18 hours a day, 16 hours a day, 12 hours a day. Working is never a stress if they're engaged. It's only distressful when it's not engaged. So it's wise not to subordinate. It's wise to engage yourself by asking new sets of questions, because the quality of your life is based on the quality of the questions you ask. So you don't have to be a victim of any positioning or subordination. You simply ask the question, how is what I'm being asked to do help me fulfill my dreams? Now, if you don't decide what it is that you want in life, in your own career path or your own organizational path, and you don't prioritize and delegate lower priority things and get on to doing the highest priority things in your own life, and you end up having to work for other people, this activity that I just mentioned is the wise thing to do as a temporary thing until you can be fully engaged in doing what you would be inspired to do. People that never decide what it is they're inspired to do will automatically be more likely to be subject to the subordination process. And so either go and do what you love through delegating, or go love what you do through linking. One of the two things are crucial if you want to master your life and have fulfillment and not break down.
Yes, some entrepreneurs has the fear to go to the next level in their life, in their business, because they have the fear to be criticized and rejected by people. What advices you can give to entrepreneurs to have the courage to go to the next level and embrace rejection no matter what?
I like that question. No matter what you do, you're going to be rejected. And if you don't embrace rejection on the outside, you'll end up living with rejection on the inside. And I'd rather have the whole world against me than my own soul. Because internal rejection is more devastating than external rejection. External rejection is transient at best. Internal rejection can erode confidence. So you're going to go through life and you're going to get rejected. There is a inevitability of rejection because there's complementary opposite value systems throughout society. No matter what you do, some people are going to like it, some people are not. No matter what you do, you're going to get supported and challenged. You're going to have cooperation, competition, agreements and disagreements. That's part of the evolutionary path in business or otherwise. So wisdom is knowing that it's impossible to go through life without it. So you want to ask yourself, how specifically is it serving me? It's the criticisms that make you go back and self-reflect and make sure you're really clear on priorities. It's the criticism that make you go and innovate and come up with creative answers. It's customer criticism that you end up making a better quality product or service. Once you see the benefits of criticism equaling to the drawbacks of praise and level the playing field where neither praise nor reprimand impacts you, you're not sidetracked by it. You use them wisely, and you see that there's blessings in both and also drawbacks in both. If you went through life and you never got a criticism, you might be losing customers and never even speak to you. You may never get feedback. You may be living in a fantasy about how great your product is, and you may be eroding your business because nobody spoke up to you. A wise person pursues challenges that inspire them and embraces the response from people, ridicule, criticism, whatever, to refine their pathway to make sure they're creating a greater product or service to reach more people. So you want to write down the benefits of criticism until you're actually grateful for it. You want to realize you can't escape it. It's going to be there. And if you don't embrace it, you're going to do it within yourself because you're not going to fulfill what you want because you're not getting the feedback and you're going to play a smaller game. And that's your own doing because you're not willing to embrace that. If you're not being crucified, you're probably not on purpose. And if you're not willing to embrace both pain and pleasure in the pursuit of a purpose, you won't fulfill it. So you need that. It's part of the game. And there's ways to mitigate unnecessary criticism by going out and caring enough to find out who you're going to do business with or transactions with and communicate in their values the best you can. To sell is not to tell. It's to ask questions to establish the needs of people and to find out what is valuable to them and to communicate in those values. So if you get criticism in a sales process, they're letting you know that you're not meeting their needs. And you're projecting assumptions onto them instead of asking and finding and discovering and determining and qualifying and actually confirming needs. So you're creating those criticisms because of ineffective communication. So criticism gives you feedback to let you know you're not caring about people in their value system. But it's impossible to go through life without it. Because there's no two people have the same value system. And no matter what you pursue, you're going to have people that are going to agree and disagree with it. We see that in business. We see it in politics. We see it in any field.
I have a lot of entrepreneurs who ask me this question about purpose. how to find your life purpose. I can see in my life that it is helping me a lot to embrace challenge, embrace rejection, and I can feel in my life that no matter what, I keep going. And some people in their life find their purpose in a young age, like you did, like I did, and I have a lot of clients who compare themselves to me because they think I am 40 years old and I didn't find my purpose and it's better to find it 20 years ago. How do we find our life purpose as an entrepreneur? And what do you want to say to someone who is 40, 50, 60 years old? Some of my clients are 70 years old and they compare themselves a lot to me because I'm 28.
Well, your life demonstrates what you value most, because every decision you make is based on what you believe at that individual moment. What's going to give you the most advantage over disadvantage, most reward over risk, most benefits over drawbacks, most positives over negatives. So you're going to make an animal decision, I call it, a passionate decision to go do what you think is going to give you the greatest outcome. And so your life is constantly demonstrating what you value most. And we sometimes compare ourselves to other people, expect ourselves to be living in somebody else's shoes, and then judging what our life is demonstrating, and then lying to ourselves and clouding the clarity of what our own purpose is, thinking that it should be something else. But what I do is I look at what your life demonstrates every day. If I look at what your life demonstrates every day, the things you spontaneously get up and do that you don't need reminding of, you don't need any outside incentives for, and don't need any motivation for, you just do it. Your life's purpose revolves around that. And sometimes that doesn't match the fantasies you have about how it's supposed to be. I worked with a lady the other day who had this fantasy that she should be building this business. And no matter what she does, everything comes in the way. Excuses after excuse after excuse. She can't get ahead. She can't get it. The business doesn't get going. And when we looked at what her values were, it's her kids. She loves her kids. She focuses on the kids. Nobody has to remind her to get up and do the kids. Nobody has to dedicate anything to get her to get and take care of the kids. Her life is her kids. But she's having an expectation because of her friends around her that have a higher value on business than kids, that I should be doing that. I'm supposed to be doing this. I ought to be doing this. I need to be doing this. I have to do this. And she's now judging herself because of the injected values of others that she's comparing herself, that she's putting on pedestals, and therefore minimizing herself to it. And then lying to herself about what her life demonstrates is important to her. But I told her, I said, but your highest value is your kids. You are dedicated to raising a beautiful family and kids. And she looked at me and she got teary-eyed. And she says, that's all I've ever wanted to do. And I said, well, give yourself permission to be yourself. Because trying to be somebody else is not going to work. Ralph Waldo Emerson, the transcendentalist, said that envy is ignorance and imitation is suicide. And people envy other people and try to imitate them. And they try to inject the values of other people through subordination and compare themselves to them and then not appreciate themselves. And self-depreciation is a symptom to let you know that you're doing that. When you're self-depreciating, it's a feedback to let you know you're trying to be somebody you're not. You don't ever depreciate yourself for who you are when you discover what it really is. So when she actually got clear about what it was, raising her family, she actually cried for a second because she said, that's all I wanted to do. I said, well, give yourself permission to be you.
Just to specify, it was not tears of sadness. It was...
No, it's tears of inspiration because she realized that that's really what she wanted to do. And she's been trying to fit into everybody's box, everybody else's life expectations. Because everybody around you projects their values onto you and expects you to live in their values. And if you subordinate to them, you'll let their values influence yours and create a conflict inside them. And so this lady, when she said that, she said, is it good enough? I said, give yourself permission to be you. There's nothing in the world that says you have to do these other things. And she said, well, I feel that that's less. I said, why is it less? Well, they have a business. I said, your business is producing incredible products called children. That's your business.
And do you think she can create a business around her kids?
Sure. She's in a long incubation period of anywhere from 20 to 30 years of producing a product that takes a while to get on the market and then launch it on the market called Beautiful Kids. And in all probability, if she dedicates her life to the kids, when she's finished with that phase of her life, Either she'll continue it and maintain observation of kids and take care of them, or she may change and all of a sudden have a shift in values and now have a focus on business. If that's occurring, then she will automatically then can't wait to get up in the morning and do that. She'll automatically, her values will display business then. But to bang your head against the wall, trying to be somebody you're not, will only be self-defeating. You got to give yourself permission to be you. The most magnificent you is you. And anytime you compare yourself to a fantasy, you're not going to appreciate you. And a lot of people do that. And a lot of people think it should be this and should be that. I'm convinced that the only reason people aren't clear about their mission is because of their comparison to other people and their subordination to people that they think have something they don't. And they're basically thinking that they're more intelligent, they're more successful, that they have more wealth, they have better relationship, more social savvy, more physically fit, or more spiritually aware. And they're minimizing themselves to people they do instead of identifying where they have what those people have in their own value system. And the moment they do, they give themselves permission to shine in their own mission statement. And the mission statement automatically emerges the second you don't subordinate. The moment you subordinate to them, you cloud the clarity because you keep injecting other people's values. Anybody who's been infatuated with another person in any form will notice that they'll sacrifice their normal behavior for that person. In a new relationship or in a business transaction, if they are admiring the other person and put them on a pedestal, they'll sacrifice what they're normally saying, doing, wanting, etc., to be with them. This is a sign of subordination, minimization of self, and exaggeration of others. But people aren't worth putting on pedestals or pits. They're worth putting in hearts. You need equanimity in yourself and equity between yourself and others if you want to not be clouded about your purpose in life. You got to own the traits of the people you see that you admire to liberate yourself from the putting them on pedestals and putting you in pits. That way you can put yourself and stand on the shoulders of those giants instead of sitting in the shadows of those giants.
And how do you find the balance between imitation, not the balance, but the line between imitation and inspiration?
Well, when you're inspired, you don't have to have a question. There's no question when you're inspired, you know. If you have to ask the question, you're not inspired. If you have to ask the question whether what you're doing is what's really your purpose in life, it's not. There's no question when you're clear. When you're clear and you're congruent, your body physiology lets you know, and you see it. Your executive center in the brain, medial prefrontal cortex, gets blood, glucose, and oxygen the second you're congruent with what's valuable to you, the highest value.
Okay.
And you see an inspiring vision, you get strategic planning, you see how you can do what you want to do, you want to get after it, you want to take action on it, and you have governance and discipline to follow it. And support, challenge, none of that interferes with somebody that's doing something that they really are inspired to do.
Okay.
When the why is really big enough, the house take care of themselves. You get things done.
Okay, let's imagine someone who hear our conversation, and the person is thinking, okay, but I don't have yet this kind of inspiration. It's not clear like that. I don't have the vision. I don't have that. It's not clear. How can we start?
Well, the first thing you do is, I have a value determination process that I use that's on my website.
Yes.
It's a complimentary gift to people. All they have to do is just do it. It's free. It's a smart thing to do. So they go in there and the process, the Demartini value determination process, asks 13 questions. How do you fill your space? How do you spend your time? What energizes you? What do you spend your money on? What is it you're most ordered and organized in? What are you most disciplined and reliable in? What is it you think about, visualize, and affirm internally about how you want your life that shows evidence coming true? What do you converse with other people about most and want to bring the conversations to and talk about most? What inspires you most consistently, and what are common to the people what are the things common to the people that inspire you? What are the most consistent, persistent goals that you pursue that are coming true? And what is it you love learning about, reading about, spontaneously want to go learn about? If you look at those, they'll all point to an answer. And you'll find out a hierarchy of values, a set of priorities that your life is demonstrating. That's where you start. And then you start to prioritize your life to live according to what you value most. You cannot have fulfillment without that. And people never take the time. They let the world on the outside distract them from prioritizing their life on the inside. But if they don't ever do that, they're going to be constantly pushed around by everybody else. They have to basically sit down and write down what's really priority for the day and stick to priorities and stick to what's meaningful. And if you don't fill your day with high priority actions that inspire you and challenges that inspire you, it's going to fill up with low priority distractions and challenges that don't. That's just the way life is. You can't avoid that. It's an unavoidable principle. You might as well just learn it. You do it, your life changes.
And do you have sometimes the frustration because you know that your work is working? You know, if we do it, it will work. And some people can hear you in an interview and say, "Oh, it's interesting," but they don't do the work. Do you have sometimes the frustration that some people just intellectualize but don't do the work, don't have the results?
Well, some people have a value on learning, but they don't have a value in building a business. So if they have a fantasy that they're going to build a business when that's not high on their values, but they love learning, they have a high value on knowing things, they'll learn it, but they're not going to go and put it into operation in a business. But they'll probably share it and show other people what they learned and pass it on to somebody else that has a value in business, and those people will use it. So you have to know what the person's value is. Because I had clients over the years, that attendees in seminars, that would come to my seminar and they show up at my seminars frequently. And I never saw them get into business. And I'd be even doing programs on business. And I'd say they're never starting a business or growing a business or anything like that. And then we'd go do the value determination. And I found out that they had an extremely high value on learning, but not on building a business. So at first I thought, well, they were just not, applying. Then I realized that's not their value. Unless they have a shift in values and identify how building a business will help them learn, they probably won't do it. But if I showed them and linked how building a business would accelerate their learning and make them retain it, and they'll be able to serve more people with it, they'll get out and start a business.
And do you think we can teach something without applying it in our life?
Well, if we have a value on learning and teaching, sure, we can take something, learn it, and pass it on. But we may not apply it because that's not our value.
Okay.
I found that years ago, I had a successful chiropractic practice. And I grew it. One of the largest ones in Houston and part of Texas. But I realized that my heart and soul was not full-time the rest of my life going to do that. I didn't want to sit in a cubicle and just work with patients. And I thought, well, if I did 100 patients a month and I do 48,000 in my life, that's it. 48,000 people I'm not going to touch. I realized I could do one radio show and reach 50,000 just like that. So it wasn't efficient for me. But I was asked to speak on how to build practices for doctors. Even though I was no longer doing it, I was starting to speak more than I was practicing. Still taught people how to build practice. I knew how to do it. I taught it. So I was no longer doing it, but teaching it. That doesn't mean anything. Some people are great at teaching and learning. Some people are great at applying. Their values will dictate that. So if you have a high value on teaching, but not necessarily building a business, and you rather delegate that to other people that want to do business, then you delegate it and get on to teach. There's no rules saying you have to be this to do that. You just give yourself permission to be what's true to your value system. I delegate a lot of stuff. I teach and I have people with technologies all around me, but I don't do the technologies. I delegate them. So I find people that would love to do and are inspired to do the things I need done that aren't inspiring to me and that cost me more if I was to do it than it was for me to do what I do best. It's better for me to do what I do best to make the most income and pay for people to do the other things.
Great. I have a question also about values and vision and dreams, about balance between business and relationship. And I will take my example because I have a lot of clients who have this in a one-on-one coaching who has the same question. I am truly inspired by people who gave everything to achieve their purpose, and I can have tears of inspiration when I see people like that. And sometimes in our couple, we have struggle and challenges because I want to work more and be more productive. And yes, it's a lot about working and be more productive. And it's hard for me to find the balance between, is it truly my life or is it maybe injected values? It's not an easy question for me because it's like, it's not just buying something, it's for all the rest of my life. And yes, if you have questions or advices for people like me, it's like for me, I don't just want a good business. I want to inspire the world and maybe centuries. And it's hard for me because sometimes it's maybe the word sacrifice. I don't know it's a good word, but
yes, I understand the paradox.
And I love her also, so I struggle between.
Totally understand. The first thing is that you have to be honest about what your values are. If you have the highest value business, business development, business creativity, and business wealth building, these kind of things. And number 10 on your value list is relationship. Then you're going to be unrealistic to expect yourself to put as much energy into relationship as you are in the business. It's just not going to happen unless there's a shift in values. And if you try to fit into somebody else's expectations from another person's value system, you'll frustrate yourself. Unless you do two things. Either be truthful to yourself about it and find the relationship that is wanting that, who you are, or you ask how specifically is what they're asking for, how is it helping you get what you want? And if you don't answer it, you'll feel like you're sacrificing and you resent it. But if you answer that question enough times and see how doing what they're wanting will help you get what you want, then there's no more sacrifice and you're able to get what you want by helping them get what they want. And that's a linking process. And that has to go on. I mean, I get to do that with people all over the world, business people, because sometimes they're juggling relationships, sometimes they're juggling health and fitness, sometimes they're juggling social causes, spiritual responsibilities. Different people have different things that they're trying to juggle with their business. But you have to first start with what is your values. You got to know what they are. I know for myself, my highest value is research. Well, teaching is number one. I teach every day. I'm either speaking and teaching, or I'm doing radio or television or podcasts or movies or something, or writing articles or newspapers. So I teach. 90% of my energy is probably teaching, 80% of it at least. That's highest. Researching and writing is probably right underneath that. And next is traveling the world. Number 4 is family. Well, 4 is financial, wealth building. 5th is family and relationship. So I will definitely put other things before that, no doubt. Now, somebody who has another set of values that have family at the top will see me as wrong. But I pay no attention to the people with different set of values, because if you try to live by other people's values, you'll never be anywhere. I don't go by what they say. I go by what's true. So I know myself. Now, if I want to have a relationship with somebody and they're expecting more time than what my life allows, I've got two choices. I can say, this is who I am, and if this doesn't match what you are, you deserve to have what matches it. I honor it. But I'm not going to be that person. So just get clear about it. And be strong about who you are, and know that there's always somebody that matches you. Or you ask, if it's within a reasonable zone and it's not a drastic change, like I don't want you to work anymore, I want you to spend time with me all day, that'll never work. So you realize that you go and ask, so what is it you want? And you get them to define what it is that they want. And then you need to be clear, what are the expectations? And then you say, okay, how can I, by doing this, help me get what I want in my business? Now, that may require that you go through your business and inventory every single thing that you do and literally write down every single thing you do in a business and how much does it produce an hour and how much meaning it has and how much would it cost to delegate that, having somebody to do it, and how much time is spent, and literally doing a real assessment of your job and see where you can delegate more stuff and extract time enough to be able to spend time in the relationship. I'm a firm believer that you're capable of doing that if you want. And you can actually grow the business more effectively by putting specialists around you that do more of those things and buy you some time to do that if you want. If you don't see how doing that is going to give you more advantage than doing something else, you won't do it. So you have to stack up enough benefits and enough drawbacks of doing the other things and rebalance out your perception to make you then make a decision. This is what I want. I want a relationship so many hours a week, and it matches what they want because it's helping me get what I want. Otherwise, you're going to sacrifice, build up a resentment, and then you're going to expect somebody to do something for you. So the wise thing to do is to be honest about yourself. If it's reasonable and it's close enough that you think you can actually fulfill it, great. You do the linking and readjust the values. If for some reason you think that that's not even close to it, you don't even begin a relationship. I had a lady not too long ago that wanted to have a relationship with me, and she had a fantasy about who my life was about. She thought because I had ships and penthouses and all these lives that I was just living this fantasy life. And I sat down really clearly. I said, it's obviously you show interest in me, and it's pretty obvious. I said, but I am absolutely not what you think. My typical day is this. I spend all this time doing that. She could see her going, oh, I had no idea. I said, I am not what you fantasize about. So please don't torture your life living in a fantasy about who I am and then try to expect me to be in a relationship with you, because I'm not going to ever provide anything that you're looking for. What you're looking for, you need a guy that does this. And I actually, by doing that, she respected that. because it cracked the fantasy that she was holding on to. She thought she was going to get in a relationship with this guy that's like James Bond or something. And I'm a teacher. I travel and I teach and I research. And I'm not, I don't have this glitzy life that people think.
And was it clear like that from the beginning, like 30 years ago? It was clear like that for you?
It wasn't clear when I first got married. My first marriage wasn't clear. And I got with somebody that didn't match very well. But by the time I got to I had a divorce after 7, 8 years. When I went on the second one, from that point on, I was clear. So I learned pretty quick on that. And that was a huge difference in that relationship because they understood who I was. And there was a really nice dynamic. We had a power couple because of it. She was independently empowered. I was empowered. And we rendezvoused and had a sharing relationship. And it was great. When she passed away, I dated a couple other ones. Some were close, but not quite it. Right now I have one that's really a nice match. So it's invigorating to be with somebody that is busy and focused. And I'm about number 4 or 5 on her list. And she's about 4 and 5 on my list. And we rendezvous and have a romantic time, and it's great.
Great. So I have a lot more questions to ask you, but it's your time. How can they follow you?
How can they find out what I'm doing or where I'm at? Well, the easiest way to do it is simply go to my website, drdemartini.com, DRDEMARTINI.com. And on there is events that I'm doing, products.
And maybe the Breakthrough Experience can be a good start.
The Breakthrough Experience program, which is my signature program that I've done 1,100 times. They can come to that. That's one of my favorite programs to deliver. I do whatever I can to help people break through whatever's in their way. Something like we just talked about.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.